Hello, everyone. Welcome to another session of Show and Tell. Today, we have brilliant MVPs joining me. I'm super lucky to sit with all these brilliant people today, and they're going to share with us a super inspiring project. Before we jump into the project, let's get to know a little bit about our MVPs, what they do, where do they live, and so on. Hi, everyone. Welcome.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey,
So, how is everybody feeling today?
cold, because if I look outside, it's like 20 centimeters of snow.
Here in Germany, we do not have snow. It will be warmer. It was a little bit minus 1 degree centigrade, but now it warms up and we will have a little bit. The snow is gone, but the sun is there.
Awesome. I'm based in Dubai, so we never get snow or we rarely get rain in here. So, okay, so can we get to know you a little bit and get to know your project?
Sure. So maybe I'll start and then head over to Hans and Tommy. So my name is Stephan. I'm an AI MVP based in around Graz in Austria, working for a consultancy company called Solvion, where I'm a technical lead and dealing with M365 and Azure stuff, mostly related to conversational AI these days.
So my name is Hans Brand. I'm coming from Germany. I'm an Office MVP, Office Apps and Services. And yes, my special things is about the last, I think, 5 to 8 years about OneDrive, OneDrive, OneDrive.
Yeah, and my name is Tommy Gölles. I'm working at the same company with Stefan. I'm business unit lead for everything around Microsoft 365, except for voice parts in Teams, but anything else lands somewhere on our tables. And I'm an Office development MVP now, yeah.
Wow, great. And I heard that you have a very exciting project to replace one of you, actually. So can we get to know a little bit what is this project about and why you decided to build this initially?
So the history of Mr. OneDrive Spot, let's say Microsoft tell me some years ago and introduced me to a new manager and says to him during the MVP summit, that was very interesting, and introduced me. This is Hans. Hans is coming from Germany. He knows all about OneDrive, and they called me Mr. OneDrive. So that was the beginning of a story, a long story. Now I have also some cards, autograph cards, and sign it during sessions when we come together in person. But there was once in SharePoint Conference Vienna, Austria, and that means in July 2019. And that means that was the first thing we meet together and have an idea. Tommy and Stefan have done a session about bots. And, sometimes people come together, and I was in the session, and have to say, okay, let's talk about the feedback, a real feedback, not the number 5, no number 4, what was good, what was bad, and the real things. So we talk about that, and they say, oh, I'm too now. My interesting thing about the bot was too far away, still is too far away. But okay, they started, and they have to say, okay, we want to digitize. That was in a hotel with some gin, and okay. 3 months later, at the SharePoint Saturday in Munich, in Germany, they introduced me the mock-up of Mr. OneDrive's bot. And that was very interesting to see that. I was flashed. They want to digitize me. Not me, but my knowledge. Because I have to sleep, I have to do several other things in their time, and not only OneDrive, OneDrive, OneDrive. That is a different one. And in December, 3 months or 1 month later, we have the first pictures, and the project name was started. The project name was Mr. OneDrive's bot. That was not so good idea, but later on I will say what's the difference one. So we started with an Excel sheet. That was the thing, because we have to do a knowledge base and I have to learn, and we do it in Germany, and that's like, no, it's not a good idea. Therefore, in March, we have a Q&A maker, and I have two databases, mean a German database and later an English database. We will see why we do that, because from German translating to English or other languages is not so easy. That's absolutely. You have to start from English and then to translate to Dutch or Italian or whatever you want to do. So now we have still two databases. And at the beginning, the Q&A maker was not so good. I have to learn Markdown and other stuff. So good that I have done in the early years some programming, and that's a good idea what we have. At 2020 in June, we have done, this was done, the Q&A maker was done during March. We have this at another event in Bremen, Germany. So you see, we are working. There was in-person events. That wasn't before the pandemic was there. And there we start in June, the first release of a beta version. Means we have to say, okay, here is a beta, you can target. And we send it to 100 people and they say, okay, it works. Not so good because of the languages. So languages like Slovenian, Poland, and so on would not do because of the Markdown thing. We have to see. And after that, we have the first beta release. After the first beta release, we submit the first release to Microsoft. But it is a project not only for a company, we do it in our free time, with the exception of me, because I'm always doing that. I'm self-employed and make some workshops and still have to do that and do that all the time. And see, I have to learn, because the Q&A maker will run in the Mr. OneDrive's bot should run in Teams. So that's a normal user. And normally I talk to enterprise people of IT and not to the end user. So therefore I have to learn what are the people are looking if they want to have in OneDrive. I take it with Bing, I take it with Google, I take it with other search engines to see what the people are searching for OneDrive, always in connection with that. And that will start new learning questions. Now we are receiving 1,000 questions in the database. And that was not at the first release, but we do that. We also have it in the free time, means sometimes Tommy has to submit releases to them during the day. Sometimes he has to release it to the night. And that was a little bit confusing because there are two teams, one in the US, one on the other thing. We have to see what is going on with that. But anyway, it was okay. And we have a big discussion with Microsoft, with legal and brand. So I'm working with the OneDrive group very closely, 1 to 5 messages all the week. And means, okay, I know the people are also know me. So that was okay. But the legal says, no name of the product inside a bot. Mr. OneDrive bot was dead. So with the intervention of the vice president of the OneDrive group, Omar Shaheen, he says, okay, what about community bot for OneDrive? So the people around the planet know me about Ignite or Ignite in Hong Kong, around the planet. If you come, oh, Mr. OneDrive is there, that means, okay, that IT people. And now they know it in a different way. And I have to say, the community bot for OneDrive is the better name. So we have a new name of the bot, and it was released 2021. It was a long story. In the long story short, it was good, but we have still some fighting with Microsoft. And in February, we have to say, okay, now it's gone. Sometimes the people has to see what is in there about several names and several things about icons and the stuff. What was okay. And in April 2021, we have a release. That was the first release. So now we can look for that. But the thing is that we also have to learn several things. And we have to learn that enterprise companies do not have established that the people can have the bot. It's running inside Teams. And most of the companies have to say, no, nothing else there. That means it's a different way in there. And therefore, in 2021, we have to release the web chat version. And it's still an ongoing story. We still have once of 14 days a meeting, and we have to talk about that. The web chat version is free for all this stuff. It costs nothing. We do not need that. But we think that is always better. We want to see what the people are asking. Therefore, we make a dashboard, and that means that's also interesting to see what is the quality of the board, what are the quality of the questions, and that is a part of that we will see later on. But now I have to hand over to Tommy or Stephan to say what is the story behind it, what is the technique stuff.
That's a lot of work.
So as you heard from Hans, that project is ongoing since a couple of days already, and therefore we have established, a real profound technical architecture. So as Hans said already, the bot is mainly running in Teams, so it's available in the Teams App Store, and you can install it in your Teams client. And the way you can actually communicate with the bot is you certainly install it in your Teams client, or as an IT admin, you can even deploy it to all of the users in your tenant. And then users can start asking questions to the bot in Teams. And Teams will then route your question or your message, whatever you've sent to the bot, to the bot framework platform sitting in Azure. So we have an Azure bot service hooked up with the Teams channel enabled. And from there, the end user's message will then be forwarded to the bot logic. So we have a web application running in Azure, which mainly acts as our bot logic, a bot application, and which handles all the stuff for us. And as Hans already said, it's mainly about answering questions around OneDrive. So therefore, we're utilizing Q&A Maker to actually retrieve answers to the end user's questions. And then after the Q&A Maker has sent us an answer, it basically goes the same way back. So it will be routed to the bot logic. It goes through the Azure bot framework and Azure bot service instance back to Teams and to the end user. So that was kind of the first process we had in place. We started with a German knowledge base, as Hans said. So we had only one knowledge base in there. But we always had the ambition of giving lots of people the opportunity to ask questions around OneDrive, not only German-speaking or English-speaking people, but a more broader audience. So in that case, we wanted to scale our language portfolio, if you will, and therefore we introduced translating services, because Hans certainly doesn't know all of the possible languages from across the globe by heart, and it would be a real, would not be feasible to translate all of the questions and answers manually. So therefore, we thought about why not getting the user's question, routing it to the bot framework, routing it to the bot application, and then checking what language the user speaks. And after that, if it's not German or English, if it's, for instance, Italian or French or whatever, translating it into English. After we have translated it into English, going with that question to the English Q&A Maker knowledge base to retrieve an answer, still in English. And after we get the answer, we certainly know that, for instance, the user speaks Italian, and then we can retranslate the answer we've been retrieving by the Q&A Maker knowledge base into Italian again, and then sending that translated answer through the bot application and the bot framework to Teams and to the end users. So the end user certainly doesn't even know that the bot only speaks German or English, because he can ask the user a question in Italian, and the user will then also retrieve an answer in Italian. And so therefore we have close to 100, or we have the possibility to support close to 100 languages, which are supported by the translator services, which is one of the cognitive services in Azure, and therefore we can scale up the language portfolio with little to almost no effort, if you will. But to give you more or a better understanding of how the bot actually behaves and what it does, I'd say we would like to demonstrate it live in Teams. So Tommy has prepared his Teams client to show you what the bot actually does, how it behaves, because it's really interesting to see how the bot answers to certain questions, because we had one goal of providing users answers to OneDrive questions, but also we wanted to include Hans' personality into the way the bot behaves actually, because if you speak with Hans, you certainly know that he's a real expert in OneDrive and he can answer all of the stuff in OneDrive, but he has his own way of answering to certain questions. And we actually wanted to keep that way and the personality of Hans also in the way the bot actually behaves.
Yeah, so before we jump into the demo, I have a question. So what you're keeping in this Q&A maker knowledge base is not like something we can find in the OneDrive documentation. It is unique to Hans's experience with OneDrive, right? He works with OneDrive for many years now, and he can answer many questions that takes probably hours that you can search online. And instead of just searching online, you can, it feels like chatting with Hans on Teams, but instead you chat with the bot because you may be located in Mexico, you may be located in Australia, and Hans's hours probably are not suitable to chat with you, with everyone available. So that's actually really unique.
Definitely. And also, which you might see if we demonstrate it, Hans is basically giving a profound answer, and in some cases he's also linking back to the docs or to his blog for further reference, because you certainly cannot pack all the information into a suitable answer in Teams, because then you would have very, very long answers in Teams, and therefore he's just giving the most important information in his answer in the knowledge base, and then linking to other references as well.
Jeff Tieper, sorry.
Go ahead, Hans.
So Jeff Tieper says, okay, if we, Microsoft, do some new things, you have to write an article, or you have to bring the information with the right questions, and then you press the button publish, and all of the 250 million daily users in Teams have the answer right now. So that's very interesting to see. If you're starting, I'm starting with 5-inch disk. So that was a very, very interesting thing with disk, then with a CD, DVD, then from a network location. And now you have to do it once. You can publish this. And therefore, all the information Microsoft has not in his database or in these documents, I have it most in the bot.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the movie, but I remember that there was actually a really similar story in a movie that scientists took someone's knowledge from the brain and then put it in the data center in a database, and then they generated a new robot acts like that person. And this is actually exactly the same story. And but I mean, this can be replicated in many other areas too, because the person knowledge is actually really important and unique. And it's not only just you can find it online. When you speak to a person, it actually gives you a lot more information and the personality and so on. And finding exact same experience in a bot is probably the best way of leveraging from the bot technologies in general. Okay, so shall we see the demo?
Yep, for sure. So let me close down PowerPoint and all my other stuff here and open up a client here, a web client, where I already installed the community bot for OneDrive, and you can just go to the Teams store and search for it, and search for community bot for OneDrive and install it, and then you are good to go. If you start with the bot, the first thing, if you just say hi, like we did a couple of minutes ago, it will answer back. That's a very important thing, because if you just install a bot and you're not 100% sure what are the features, what will this bot do for me, or what are the options, it's a good principle in terms of user interaction or user design to make an introduction and to make it clear what this bot is all about. So you see already here, Hans created this nice introduction card or introduction message with already some buttons to click here, so we can have additional questions that we add to our first interaction already to somehow make it clear to the end user that we will also work with those what's called follow-up prompts in the bot framework, so that you have like, okay, you're asking in a certain direction and the bot knows, okay, if you're going that way, you most probably are also interested in topping A, B, C down there. So we're already making very clear at the beginning that you can interact with the bot and then click through those buttons, and those buttons are very, very interesting, especially if you think of a mobile phone, because it's way easier to just click that button than to type all your questions. And technically what this button does is just entering the text here and pressing enter on a higher level. So that's easy to understand. So we see here, who is Hans? And I think it's always the same question that I ask is about sharing, because I heard once OneDrive is about sharing. So you get back, if you just type sharing, you get back this nice post article or information card where you see Hans is working also with pictures. In the markdown, he is marking certain words as important, so bold, some lists here, and basically a detail through your question. I just typed in sharing, but you could also type in a sentence or not only a word. So it's not only that it's like a regex search, it's a little bit smarter, but it isn't using Azure Language Understanding. So we are still in the realm of the Q&A maker and how their inner workings basically operate. To give you a look in the background, because now you see basically what the bot looks like in Teams, that's actually the backend. So that's the knowledge base. Here you see how Hans basically edits or adds new questions. And one interesting thing here, for example, if we look at the maximum storage space for personal OneDrive question, is that we have a question, but we have an answer here on the right-hand side, but we have multiple questions for it. Because what you do with the Q&A maker is that you create basically a post, an article, or an answer in that sense, and then you try to formulate at the most interesting or the most reaching questions to that, so that the client or the end user can ask in different ways and will be led to the same question. What we also see here is how we have our inner workings as well. So we have a small code for each question. Why? Because we wanted to make sure that there is a way to 100% guarantee if I type something in, I will get exactly that answer back. Because think of the use case, you are writing that post, or let's say you're using pictures down here, and then you want to test something. And what we realized during the process is that with the Q&A maker, you're not in charge of the language model behind the system. That's like AI as a service. So that's all done by Microsoft, which is a good thing. But those models behind those systems also change. So it can happen that the language understanding, language processing of the Q&A maker, let's say, gets smarter over the months, over the weeks, which led to interesting behaviors, because with the same question and adding multiple answers, we weren't 100% sure anymore that we get back the same answer anytime. So we created our own, let's say, numeric or sophisticated numeric system to make sure that we get back the same answers all the time, and make sure that we can test and create the output that we want. But you see here with pictures, and I think we are only, do we have an example here? yeah, there's an example of links. So we make the choice that we said, okay, we are focusing on OneDrive, okay, but there are only two sources basically where we want to link people in the next step, and one of course is Hans blog with around 850 posts about OneDrive, so a lot is there as well, and all other links are Microsoft links. So we wanted to make sure that we have like, something like a controlled environment in terms of quality, so that we make sure that the information that we are sharing is really valid. And yeah, Hans of course can control his own blog. If you link to something different, you always have the problem of, is this not is this valid, but is it still available? People change their domains, people move on and have now different blogs, for example. So we made this choice to say, okay, something that we can manage, docs.microsoft.com, support.microsoft.com, and basically hansblender.com as an idea. But please.
So Tommy, I wanted to say of the number. The number is very important, but you can test it. You see the save and train button and the test button. We can test it in the Q&A maker, but that's not the only thing, because Markdown in Q&A maker is not Markdown in Teams. And if you have it in Teams, you have 3 different versions. So the mobile version is different from the normal desktop version, and that means you have to test it again and again and again. Therefore, we need all of the numbers. I could not have the time to have always the same question. Therefore, we have that we have the same question, all different things. Therefore, it was very interesting to build it in. And although the Markdown, we don't see that here, it's very interesting if we do it and mark it and send it over to Teams. Means that you have seen, and you should not have save button, because we have additional characters that we have a character return line feed again. So that's a difference about that, and that's also a language difference, but we have to see what's in that. Tommy?
Yep. That's the hard part for the translation services or algorithms, because technically we are storing here a string containing Markdown content. And if you try Bing, or we try, there are others also, but we try different translation services. And if you just hand over a string of Markdown, yeah, those services most of the time behave very, let's say, interesting. For the bold thing is, I think it's 2 asterisks, and we realized that Bing doesn't behave all the same in all different languages, so we still have struggles there. But that's basically the idea, because we wanted to add more than just simple plain text. Because if you look at the bot, if you go here and back, this article looks totally different if you use a picture and if you use some formatting, and this adds to the quality as well. So this is important to us. So we still need to find a really a proper way to really translate those things, because it's easy if you mark something like, or some words like SharePoint or Word or Excel or PowerPoint. Of course, Bing Translate knows all those internal brands, but if you start marking general words, sharing, internal, external, it gets a little bit tougher, and we're in touch with that group. But yeah, it's not their, let's say, euphemistic, not their most interesting use case at the moment. But we still keep knocking on their doors from time to time to make sure that this will be improved. But talking about improvement and quality so much, what we also wanted to do is that we wanted to make sure that we realize when people start using the bot and basically don't get an answer. If you're coming from a SharePoint background, there was always this report in search. Most interesting report for me was what are people searching and getting no results back, because there you need, there you know there is a need. People are asking something and you cannot provide it. And let's make that for the last part here. We are now here in show and tell session. I hope the bot doesn't have any answers in here, or let me see. So yeah, of course there's no knowledge on that, but what we can do now is that we can switch over to our quality dashboard here and click on user questions, and if the demagogues are with us, you see here a show and tell session with a score of 0, and it needs attention. So this means that Hans has a screen here, has a web page basically, where you see all the different questions. We on purpose are only using an anonymized version of the GUID, so we are not really interested in the people's name or person details. We just want to know what is your question, and you see here the score basically was 0, of course, compared to sharing the demo part before, where we got back the answer with 90% certainty. But what we can achieve with this dashboard is that we now have a task for Hans, basically. You can go in there and can filter stuff and see, okay, those were questions that maybe need our attention. I think we settled for a score. Everything below 40% is something that we want to have a look at. So we can also guarantee and say, okay, we want to take this to the next level and make sure that the quality is at heart of everything we do. And what on the technical part, what you're seeing here is basically an entry in an Azure Cosmos DB, because we are using application insights for our bot more from a technical point of view. But we created our own really small data layer to store every question to an Azure Cosmos DB, so that we can make use of it in our dashboard here. And the next thing we're working on is that, as it is stored in Azure Cosmos DB, why don't we create, let's say, a Flow or an Azure Logic app that then notifies us that there were questions that are not answered, so that even Hans doesn't need to open the dashboard every day, but more like the system pushes him. Let's say every Friday he gets a report. Those were the questions without a proper answer. You got work to do, buddy. So that's the idea of this dashboard.
They will not give me a weekend.
You are now digitized, Hans. Free time is over. That's the thing of the past.
Yeah, as long as the questions make sense, I guess you add the answers for them. But
absolutely,
it makes a lot of sense. So this bot records all of the conversations with the users for the future purposes, so that you check, and if there are new questions that you need to provide an answer, you also add those in Q&A Maker, which makes a lot of sense.
That's true, and I won't show it now, but yeah, there are a couple of questions we won't address, because you know what happens if people install a new bot and what questions they are asking, and it's way too early to show that now.
Yes, and one more question. This is a brilliant scenario, and I guess in terms of person's experience, person's knowledge, and using that as a bot is a really great scenario. What do you recommend for developers out there if they want to build something similar for their companies, for maybe themselves, for their schools? Where do you guide them to start? Or do you have a GitHub repository for this project? Or do you have a blog post about it? What do you recommend them?
I think this is something for Stephan, or?
Yeah, we have certainly a lot of blog posts out there, but the easiest way would be to start with the Q&A Maker docs, because the Q&A Maker is the heart and soul of the bot. And from there, what you can actually achieve is, if you start building a knowledge base, and if you then publish it, so if Tommy now clicks on publish, what you can do is you can also create a bot from your knowledge base without even writing a single line of code, which gives you a glance and an idea of how the bot actually works, because then you actually get the bot code generated for you, and you can then download the code and work on the code and extend it from there. So the easiest way would be to start off with a knowledge base in Azure. So if you have an Azure subscription, create a Q&A Maker service, create a knowledge base in there, add some questions in there, publish it, create a bot, and then see where you need to tweak and extend your bot logic to make it work.
Yes, and then probably developers will build on the top of it. I guess the reporting part makes it a little bit more complex. You will start adding Cosmos DB to store your conversations, and then after that, you will publish your bot, of course, on Teams, and you will start building your bots. So since Stephan, Hans, and Tommy already have a lot of blog posts about this scenario, we will link down all of these blog posts in the description box. So don't forget to check those too. Is there anything else we should know about this project?
Go ahead and try it, I'd say.
Yep. Go to Teams and install the community bot. And if there is anything in terms of feedback, reach out on Twitter or wherever you can get a grip of us and tell us what's missing or what's not working. We always look for further improvement. This from the last months, this feels like this never stops, because OneDrive gets more features, so Hans needs to update the knowledge base. Teams, let's say, behaves differently with the different clients, and over time gets also new features. So this is an ongoing thing, because we want to be always on top of things as well.
Another thing makes it great is if you want to build something similar, go ahead and install this from the App Store, Teams App Store, which is available for everyone, not only for any specific tenant, but it's public now in the store. Go ahead, try out. If you like the experience, just text Hans, Stephan, or Tommy back. And if you think that this is something you can use in your own company, in your own institute, try it yourself by starting with Q&A Maker. I think that's a brilliant project in terms of using someone's knowledge as a knowledge base.
Yep.
Right. I guess we will wrap up with this project, but we will add many related documentations in the description box. And I guess this is all from us, folks. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. See ya.
Bye.